speaking of that PR journalist media relationship, that was actually a pretty hot talking point coming out of this Backlash show. There was a comment from Paul Levesque that directly, indirectly, whatever you want to say, discredited, threw some shade at the likes of Fightful, PWInsider, Sean Ross Sapp, Mike Johnson. In my opinion, two of the more credible individuals in the entire space. You're someone who's been on the pulse of wrestling media for a long, long time. Did you have any thoughts on that and the role that wrestling media plays in the space?
Interesting. Yeah. Well, to begin with, one thing I was going to say, uh, I actually did an interview with Mike Johnson last week, which was for the TNA tapings that we had last weekend. And it's great. I've known Mike for a while, right? And I've interacted with him. He's been a big supporter of both myself and Jeff, through whatever ups and downs. And I know if there was stuff I was doing the whole broken mat stuff. He would post videos. If we had something that was on social, he would pick it up and he would run with it. PW Insider, they had a very strong following at that time. And I was always very grateful for it. And I've met him several times, seen him backstage at, whatever events. I know I saw him. I feel like the last time I saw him was at maybe a Grand Slam for AEW. But anyway, I did the interview with him and he said, well, thanks. He said, just want to say to you, like, I know I had conversations with you. And he said, like, I know there's some things that I'd report on you that weren't necessarily, put you in a good light or whatever it may be. He said, but you said to me, he said, well, that's okay, Mike. You're just doing your job. I understand it. Because I've always said too, if you don't want any internet journalist or dirt sheet, whatever you classify them, if you don't want any media reporting on anything you in a negative in a negative manner, then don't give them anything negative to report about is the one thing I would say. So he said, thank you for being that. You've always been cool. And I get that. These are these guys' jobs, just like our jobs are to be pro wrestlers. And like we deal with so many people online that are so negative, that are trolls, that are just, they build an account and there's 4 followers that other accounts they have just so they can write us troll comments because whatever other accounts they have are blocked. And it kind of comes with the territory, right? But it is what it is. People that are out there trying to make an honest dollar, trying to make an honest living, doing something they love and they're passionate about, you can't hate on them for that because that is their gig. So I just wanted to throw that out as a preface to begin. Like I'm okay with these guys. I get it. I mean, they're doing their job. Sean Ross Sapp, again, a guy I had met a while back. And I feel like earlier on, he said I was one of the guys that was the nicest to him whenever we interacted or whatever. And Sean Ross Sapp has really built a great foundation, a good base for himself. And yeah, man, it's one of those things, man. I understand how it's very easy to get passionate and get frustrated with some of the things that may be leaks or maybe get out or whatever. That's why those leaks have to be kept so tight to a very small group of people that are going to keep it quiet or whatever. So yeah, I mean, when Hunter did say that, Paul Levesque, when he did say that, it was, a little like, ooh, it's just, you can't, I don't think you can downplay those guys, especially when they're guys that are pretty credible, when they're pretty legitimate with what they do. So I know they sent him, some cheese and he had asked for some cheese and apparently it was a whole bit, right? So it was a funny little bit altogether. And that was very cool that they did that as a token of, as a token of their apology or whatever it may have been. But yeah, it's one of those things. I feel like those guys who really try hard to like get their scoops verified or whatever it may be, it is something that is maybe a nuisance to a company like a WWE or a company like an AEW, even a company like a TNA. It can be a nuisance to you, but once again, if those things get out, then it is what it is. Then someone let it slip in some form or capacity, and it's their job. And literally, all they're doing is their job. It's supposed to be your job to keep that stuff kayfabed. So I see both sides of the argument, but it's one of those things. I think the internet is just such a powerful tool in this day and this age, and when you have guys, whoever may be, that are internet journalists, if it's your Meltzers or Sean Ross Sapp or whoever may be, Mike Johnson. I mean, these guys, they're just doing their job. That's what it is at the end of the day. And if they're doing a good job and a fair job and they put out stuff that is legitimate and they seem very credible, I don't think there's any reason to shade them.
Yeah, that was the biggest part of it for me was you took two of the outlets that are the most credible in the space and discrediting them publicly in an arena in pro wrestling where media literacy is so poor in general with pro wrestling and people don't comprehend how stuff is reported, who reports stuff, the credible outlets versus the non-credible outlets. And then when you take two that are very credible and you throw shade at them in a very public forum, that can be really damaging to people's reputation, whether you were joking or not. And like you were talking about like dirt or rumors and stuff. Like this was a much more serious topic they were discussing, which was Drew Gulak's release.
Right.
But it just seemed like it was largely unnecessary, and hopefully it's something they can move past and put behind. But I'm glad that you said that about credible wrestling media, because there really is such a stigma. And listen, there are some really bad ones, as you know firsthand. There are some
Of course.
really really bad ones out there, but there are also some really good ones who are doing things the right way and treat people the right way too. So I'm glad that you shared some of those thoughts on that. Hopefully,
And
people learn from
and
that.
and it's just something, before there was the internet, people always say like, well, before the internet, wrestling was so much easier. And there are aspects of it that were made easier before the internet. Secrets weren't going to get out anywhere like they do in this day and age. Things were people always seemed in gimmick. They seemed in character, which I think uh the mystique of the characters were a lot stronger then, because you didn't see them in their day-to-day life with their kids or with their girlfriend or going grocery shopping or whatever it is what they might be doing, right? So the internet's kind of changed things, but we're at this point in life where the internet is out there. The pro wrestling internet journalist community is not going away, and it is something that is going to be there forever, and we just have to deal with it and learn to accept it. There was no official reports that we were going to be going back to WrestleMania 33 whenever that happened. And that's because there was a small handful of people. A lot of people speculated, of course, but no one could officially confirm it. And that's because myself and Jeff, we shut the fuck up. We didn't tell anybody. When we showed up at WrestleMania, same thing they're doing. I can't believe you kayfabe me. AJ Styles being one of the people say, I can't believe y'all guys kayfabe me. But anyway, that's what it was. Even when I went out to TNA, I did my part to to try and keep it as quiet as possible, so it would remain a great surprise. And that's, once again, that's back on the performer, and that's back on management, keeping a real tight knit group and in on the secret.